you've been struggling with your attention and focus, like the vast majority of people in our digital age, and you've tried some practical steps for reducing your screen time or reducing and removing digital distractions, and you were partially successful in implementing these practical steps, but you're still struggling because you found that these practical steps are only addressing the surface level of the whole issue. Here is a more grounded, more human, and a deeper approach to addressing this issue as a whole. The issue of attention and focus. We will start with an insight from Alfred Adler, one of the greatest and one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. By the way, a colleague and collaborator of Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung in the Vienna School of Psychoanalysis. But just like Carl Jung, Adler departed from the Freud school and founded his own school of psychology. But now, not to go into the history of psychology, Alfred Adler, one of the goats of psychology, talks in his book Understanding of Human Nature. He talks about when working with people who are struggling with attention, struggling with distractibility. He addresses what comes before attention. And this is what we don't talk about often enough. What comes before attention is interest. Adler says we need to focus, no pun intended, on the interest. That is, the person needs to fill out their life with things that they are interested in. That is, their life has to have sufficient content. We're not talking about digital content, but the content of one's life that the person is interested in, which will result in the person naturally using their attention in a healthy way, and by doing so, practicing directing and maintaining their attention on one thing at a time. So, interest as something that actually fills out the gap. What is the gap? Well, if now, in our age, I remove all the digital distractions from you, maybe I even remove the majority of digital devices from you, you're going to go crazy if that gap is not filled with something. So it doesn't matter the exact practical steps that you are taking, but all the practical steps of addressing the modern problem of attention, all those practical steps revolve around the idea of removing and limiting. By removing and limiting digital consumption and distractions, we are left with massive gap in our time and space in the day. What are we doing with that time, space, energy, attention? It has to be invested somewhere. So that's where interest comes in. Interest as something that is a more primary thing, or something that comes before. It's not just it comes before in terms of what comes first with a given activity, like with a book or a hobby, what comes first, interest or attention. We will address that nuance. It's, as Adler explains, what is a stronger thing in the human psyche. And he claims it's interest. Now, let's address that nuance. We are kind of left with the chicken or the egg question. Adler says the interest is primary, comes before, in the sense of comes before in ranking of importance and strength in the psyche. But when it comes to specific activities, what comes before as what arises first, not necessarily what is stronger or more important in the psyche from a psychological perspective, but rather what comes first in an experience, what arises first, interest or attention, that's chicken or the egg question, because it can be both. So then how do we resolve this? If you can very fairly, you would be fair if you replied to me and said, well, David, this isn't really helping me because I'm lacking the attention to develop an interest. And that would be fair. If you said that, it would be completely valid. You could say, well, David, I do want to develop an interest in books, or I want to develop an interest in this specific topic. I'm trying, but I'm struggling so much that I cannot develop interest. Or I want to go train that sport, but I'm struggling to focus on learning the technique because my attention has been destroyed by digital distractions. So actually my inability to focus and maintain my attention is making it more difficult for me to develop genuine interest. If you said any of these things, again, it would be a completely fair argument. So now let's address it. How do we address it? Well, let's find some base level of interest that is already there and then supplement it with some base level of attention that you possess. How do we find this base level of interest that can then be supplemented with as little attention as you have to start nurturing it, and then it develops into a deeper interest, which then makes it easier for us to invest our attention, which makes our attention more developed, or the control that we have over attention stronger. Where do we find this most important link in this equation that we are proposing? The most important link being base level of interest. Where do we find it? Well, we find it in something that comes before interest. Again, before as in more important and stronger in the human psyche. What is that? Curiosity. Curiosity. So curiosity, interest, attention. If we give curiosity this position in the psyche as a component of human experience, a component of human psyche that is stronger, more important, or has priority over interest and attention, because has priority over them because it allows the other two to happen, then what do we do with curiosity? We ask, do we have curiosity? If not, why? Well, every human possesses curiosity. Lack of curiosity is a sign of human deterioration, not to say degeneration. So, it's not a question if you are a curious person or not. The question is, if you're lacking curiosity, why? And for this, we turn to another great psychologist of the 20th century, who was massively inspired by Adler, and that's Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow talked about this concept of desacralization and resacralization. I talked about this in one of the previous videos where I laid out, I believe it was 8 or 10 self-actualizing behaviors. Maybe it was 10, doesn't matter. You will check out the video. Abraham Maslow, known for theory of self-actualization, hierarchy of needs. I've made a bunch of videos on him. I reference him in almost every video, so I will not now give you the history and background of Abraham Maslow. However, one of the most important and most overlooked components of self-actualization is precisely this concept of desacralization and resacralization, which are words that Maslow himself coined because he couldn't find words that were describing this experience. This experience is, I mean, if you look at the root of sacralizing something sacred, what Maslow was referring to, if I'm going to put it in the simplest way possible, desacralization is modern cynicism, looking at life as a purely mechanical, physical phenomenon, devoid of sacredness, devoid of magic. When we talk about sacredness in this context, we are not talking about you needing to be religious or needing to be a member of a church or any other religious institution. We are talking about sacredness as a broader concept. So not having a sense of sacredness of life for magic of life, magic of the world, not being in awe at the fact that this is life and we are experiencing it. Again, modern cynicism. Cynicism, very close to those, I'm not going to go into nihilism as a full concept, but more nihilistic attitude that dismisses love, passion, curiosity for life. On the other hand, resacralization would be to once again see sacredness, eternity, magic, awe in life as a whole phenomenon, in humans, in nature, in everything that is around us. Why is this important? How did we get from doom scrolling and struggling with attention and focus to seeing life as sacred and humans as sacred and magical? How did we get here? Well, curiosity is a component of resacralization. That childlike wonder for the world, that ability to go out. Now I'm pointing at my door. I would like to be able to point at the door in your room and your home and to say, going out and engaging with the world with fresh eyes, eyes of a child or of a wise old man. Those two have the most curiosity. Those two have the greatest. I mean, when I say wise old man, it's the archetype. I'm not saying that this doesn't apply to women. Wise old man as the archetype that is the closest to the child in their ability to see the magic of ordinary life, to see the magic in this table, to see the magic in the fact that I'm actually recording myself talking, to see the magic in a flower, to see eternity in a cat, to see sacredness in touching the hand of another human. That experience of resacralizing, again, is inseparable from curiosity, and curiosity is inseparable from resacralizing or resacralization as a component and necessary and one of the most overlooked steps on the journey of self-actualization. So what does this tell us? Let's now kind of lay out the path once again. Resacralization, meaning re-engaging in life with fresh eyes, making an intention to see the beauty, magic, sacredness, eternity, awe, wonder in the world, in humans, in animals, in nature. By doing so, we are nurturing curiosity, because this resacralization cannot occur without curiosity. This curiosity, what does it give us? It gives us a base level of interest in numerous things around us. That's what we were looking for, right? We were looking for base level of interest. Well, if there is a base level of interest in so many different things around you, then whatever little attention you have, you can invest it in any of those things where you have a base level of interest. And that little attention that you have, and invest into something where you have base level of interest in, then this little attention that you have is nurturing that interest to grow stronger and deeper. That this interest that has grown stronger and deeper demands of you and makes it easier for you to direct your attention towards that thing. By demanding and helping you to invest more of your attention into that thing, the interest is strengthened. We are not saying that this thing is going to become the passion and mission of your life. Maybe it's a mini project. Maybe it's a small hobby. Maybe it's a small habit throughout the day. But it is something that will kick off this positive feedback loop, this healthy and constructive cycle where the interest will grow and demand and facilitate more of your attention, which will make the interest stronger. But most importantly, your attention, even though, again, it will not necessarily be directed towards something that will end up being your grand mission, you will be training your attention without it feeling like you're training it. You will be developing your attention without it being a struggle. Which, side note, doesn't mean that we shouldn't have concrete training of attention that does feel like training, that is struggle at times or often, doesn't mean we shouldn't do that. But again, here is a very natural process that is laid out for us to take advantage of it in the healthiest way possible. So, let me recap it once more. Resacralization, which fosters curiosity or requires curiosity, so that's another positive feedback loop, positive cycle. Resacralization, curiosity giving us a base level of interest, because you as a human, here's the thing that I have to mention once again. It's not whether you are a curious person. Not being curious means that something has gone wrong in your psychological, and we could even say spiritual development. So that's the only thing that we are concerned. If you're not curious, let's get you back on track. There is no such thing as not being a curious human. It doesn't exist. It's not natural. That's not how you are born or how you were born. So, curiosity will give you that base level of interest in things around you. You will catch something with that base level of interest that is created by curiosity, by that natural human curiosity. You will find, out of all of these things that you have a base level of interest in, you will find something that clicks. Clicks, again, not as a lifelong passion, but clicks as, okay, here is mini project, habit, activity, whatever it is, which will then make it easier to use the little attention that you have. And you see how I'm constantly talking about the little attention that you have. A lot of you listening to this, you have way more than little or minimum attention. But I'm laying this out in a way where even for the person that is most quote-unquote cooked, as the kids say nowadays, even the person who is the most cooked can still relate to this and use this as a valid approach to improve their attention focus. So for most of you, it will not be little attention. You'll be able to utilize decent amount of attention into this thing that you have a base level of interest in, which, again, to not repeat, will kick off this positive feedback loop. Now, the one question that might remain is, David, how do I engage in resacralization? Well, if we explained it as seeing the magic, eternity, sacredness, awe and wonder in the world, you can suppose that it will completely go against that whole idea if I said, here are 3 steps to resacralize, right? It would be in conflict with the idea of magic and eternity and sacredness in the world if you want to approach it mechanically. I'm not against practical steps, but here we cannot really have a strict framework. Rather, the question is posed to you. What can you do today? Or if you're listening this in the evening, what can you do tomorrow morning to engage in the world around you in a way that you are recognizing more beauty, wonder, awe, sacredness, eternity in it? What can you do to feel the magic of life? Is it going to be to play some sport? Is it going to be to play a song and start dancing? That is something that you haven't done in a while, but maybe you like to do it in your room, in privacy of your own room. Is it going to be to go out in the sun? Is it and just take a walk? For a lot of you, I'm recording this in winter time for most of the world, so maybe you don't have a lot of sun. Is it going to mean that maybe you're going to go pet a dog, pet a cat? Is it going to mean that you are going to spend some time with a family member, hug them, have a heart-to-heart conversation with them, appreciate them? Is it going to mean that you will visit a museum or an art gallery and appreciate the magic and truly the sacredness of human creativity? The possibilities are endless, endless. So the challenge is on you, how you will facilitate your resacralization. I gave you multiple examples. I personally always, by default, want to go to nature if I'm missing that spark. Yes, I'm a lover of stories. Those of you who are watching my videos regularly are familiar with it. I'm a lover of stories. Stories inspire me. Stories for me are, the greatest legacy of humanity. But when it comes to resacralization, I also like to get in contact with nature. I like to pet a tree. It doesn't have to be a cat or a dog. I can pet a tree. Why not? There is no shame petting a tree. Spend some time in the sun. But also, why not appreciate human art? So again, possibilities are endless. If you take on the challenge of resacralization, you have kind of already started a process. Because desacralization, that is this cynicism, wants to reject even the idea of what I proposed. So if you're listening to this and you are not in full cringe mode, not fully resisting what I'm telling you, you have already started the process of resacralization. So I'm fully confident in your ability to see what are different options and to engage and try out different options for further engaging in the process of resacralization. That's it, friends. Resacralizing, curiosity to base level of interest requiring and facilitating attention, strengthening interest, developing attention further, and you are on your way of being once again what you were meant to be or how you were meant to be. And it is a full human being full of vigor and vitality, and human being with an increasing capacity for deep focus, rather than a human being with a 3-second attention span. I know that you can do this. Thank you.